Hello, I'm Kads, and welcome to today's video. So today the portal is alight with the lovely blue hue, meaning that it is once again time for 2x on Ancient Shards. Now it is worth noting that tomorrow begins a really amazing fusion for Newt, a champion who's going to be absolutely god tier for normal and hard mode on Fire Knight. And as such, it could be somewhat recommended for people with not a lot of shards in general to skip this 2x Ancients and save them for the fusion. However, it is also worth noting that the fusion will encompass a 10x as well as 2x Sacreds, and that Ancient Shards are generally the weakest source of points for Champion Chase tournaments as well as the Summon Rush. You could arguably get a lot more value by suffering through some of the Misery Shards if you need to pull a bunch of those versus trying to stock up on Ancients, which do not give that many points. So that's not to say that you should pull all of them or you shouldn't. It kind of just decide for yourself depending on how many total shards you have altogether and what you might need or what you think you might need for the fusion. But all that said, if you're anything like me in the shard hoarder that I am, you are more than prepared for anything going on in the game, including fusions or special shard pull events. So if we look at my current shard count, we have 462 Ancients. We're going to deplete some of that today, 188 on the Voids and 70 on the Sacred Shards. Now, as always, our incentive during these is always the Legendary Tome, the first one from the Champion Chase tournament. So we are targeting 3,000 points by the end of this poll session. A couple things to note here is that there is the first time we've ever seen it, at least that I've noticed, that there is a mythical Relentless gear up for grabs. Obviously, we're not competing for that. That's usually just whale territory, even though 12,000 points isn't a ton, but it is way more than I'm willing to do, and I don't really care that much to try and top out the tournament, at least for Champion Chase. And you can also see that down here I already have 500 points, and that was summoning a Fragment Champion from the portal. So for people who don't know, you can always use champions from the portal in terms of fragment summons to get points during a Champion Chase tournament. A lot of people prefer to do this during CVC because you can get up to 30,000 points for a new legendary on your account, and that can potentially make or break your win in CVC. However, potentially more selfishly, I prefer to use them for Champion Chase tournaments because that's how I get, well, not most, but that's how I get a decent amount of extra legendary tomes. So in this particular instance, I summoned the Daily Login Reward Champion of Eric's because I do plan to use her unbooked for Faction Wars to help fully speed up Wave 2 with all the nasty Valkyries on stage 21. So her A1 can like remove buffs, and so hopefully we can just smack off some counterattacks and speed up that wave a little bit. But once again, since we do have a fusion starting tomorrow, I want to take this moment to mention that you can also do a similar thing with these redoable fusions here, so Relic Keeper and Broadmaw, and these will also give you points during Champion Chase tournaments. As I mentioned earlier, this fusion for Newt should encompass 2x Sacreds, meaning it's going to potentially cost you Sacreds during the Champion Chase tournament as well as the Summon Rush. But for said Champion Chase, on top of having previous Fragment Champions, if you also do a little bit of homework and work on some Relic Keeper or Broadmaw fusions, then you can just get free points. So you do get 250 points for an epic, you get 500 points for a legendary, and you would get 350 points for a void epic. So assuming the typical values for a Champion Chase during a fusion, the rare should be around 2,500 points. So if we look at what I have going on right now, I have one copy of Relic Keeper because we only have one Templar, and I do have 2 copies of Broadmaw ready to go as well. So that gives me just around 950 points. So a little less than half, but a decent chunk of the way towards the Champion Chase. So if I were to add 50 Mystery Shards to that, that would bring it up to 1,000. And essentially that paid for 4 Sacred Shards. So as you can see, this is something that I do fairly often. So I do hold on to these rares that specifically feed into these 2 champions. And I fuse them whenever I need to. I generally try and fuse them during a Champion Chase that is 2x Sacreds for a desirable fusion though. So hopefully those little tidbits of information help you guys prepare for the fusion. I will have a full fusion plan coming out tomorrow once the calendar is live and we can see all of the events and tournaments. So stick around for that one going live tomorrow. But for now, let's shift focus back to the 2x on the Ancient Shards and talk about where my Mercy currently lies. So if we pop up the Mercy tracker here, you can see that we are fresh off of a legendary, and so we are 192 shards away from getting to Mercy. So we are guaranteed to not hit Mercy on average to get around 3,000 points in the Champion Chase, assuming no legendaries. It usually takes around 60 to 70 Ancient Shards. So expectations are quite low, but if I do get lucky and happen to get a legendary, then I would love for it to be one of the Poison Exploders, Xavier or Eleanoril. Still want the Valkyrie, and I'd still like a Molly as well. As far as epics are concerned, I basically have all of them except for Cryoden the Blue, who's a relatively new Sylvan Watcher, but I will also take some copies of Sylvan Watchers to round out that Faction Guardian pool. So without further ado, let's get into the polls. We've we've got some space, we've got the cash, and hopefully we've got a little bit of that sweet, sweet luck. Let's get into it. First 10 pop. Here we go. So looking pretty bad. Okay, no, we're saved. We've got one epic there. We do get a Templar, which means that I could potentially fuse another Relic Keeper. So that is something I might work on. It's a little bit late because the fusion starts tomorrow, but maybe during a champion training event or tournament during the fusion, I might work on that. Tyrell is pretty awesome though. He's one of the few high elves who has AoE decreased defense, albeit on a 4-turn cooldown, but it'll still get the job done when you need it. Honorable mention to Fleshmonger as well, who is a rare with AoE decreased defense. Pretty decent for some secret rooms as well as faction wars. Granted, it is a 75% chance to land, so not the best in the world, but he is once again a rare. So looking like another relatively underwhelming session here. We got one epic again. Durandil, Dark Elf. I've heard he hits relatively hard. I've not tried him out myself. But maybe you can look into that in the future. Honorable mention here to Banshee as well. AoE on the A1, so she's great in a stun set, once again, for secret rooms, particularly magic support or just rare magic champions, one of the two. Let's keep it going. We're just around 1200-ish points, so we're not even quite halfway to the tome, so we will proceed and hope that our luck turns around. Oof, okay, we jinxed it. So definitely an all blue there. So I think now we're slightly past 1200, but we are not still at halfway. So we keep it going. Hopefully we can not do that again. Okay, Zargala, we got one epic. Lots of single epic pulls here. Unfortunate. She does have AoE decreased defense, a triple hitter, I believe, crackdown or something like that. So pretty strong, good hybrid between a debuffer and a nuker. Great for faction wars. I prefer Duck the Pierced over her just because he's a little tankier, but nonetheless she can do dual purpose of DPS as well as debuffer. Honorable mention to Judge, another rare who is really good for the rare attack secret rooms because he can get a lot of turn meter, and he's also good in a stun set as well. So we finally passed halfway. We're at 1600 points, but we're still trying to get to 3000, so let's keep it going. Next set of 10 is going to be hopefully a triple epic. We're kind of shooting really blank here. Wow, another single epic pull. Is the 2x on? Are we too late? Are we want to put on our tinfoil hats or something here? But Lich, decent champion who does have the full turn meter depletion here on this ability here, 100% depletion as well as decreased speed when ascended. He's part of the Ras infusion, so technically you could get him for free if you get all the rares. So pretty decent. Honorable mention for the Dark Fae, or maybe like Spider as well, Fire Knight, if you really need him to do that job for you. So now we are just under 2,000 points, so 1,000 to go. If we just get a lovely triple epic pull, we can call it a day here. We got one, we've got two, we've got three, and oh snap, a legendary who's blood gorged. I don't know how I feel about that. He can hit relatively hard. He does have this decapitate skill here. We can ignore all defense and just block revive on the one target, but it's on a 4-turn cooldown and it's single target, so it's strong, but it's going to take a long time to get back to it. And then his A2 is somewhat underwhelming because you get like half of a warlord, and so it may or may not put the ability that you want to put on cooldown. Potentially, maybe if they have one ability, then it'll guarantee, but if they have two or three, it may or may not do the one you want. So kind of a hit or miss ability there, but he can hit decently hard, but for me, he's probably not going to see much of any action. As for the rest of the pulls here, Old Hermit Jorg is pretty decent, kind of like a Gore Grab type champion where he has the increased attack and turn meter fill, as well as a 2-man revive with a Perfect Veil. Or is it Perfect Veil or is it Normal Veil? I don't remember. Perfect Veil, yeah. So Perfect Veil and the revive. So very, very solid faction wars champion. Really solid. I use him, or used to use him in my faction wars team. But with the advent of Artak, my team is just tanky enough to kind of stay alive with just a Rask healing them up. Chonaru is one of the promo code champion. She's not really useful in my opinion. Neither is Durang, but he is decent enough to have the decreased defense, decreased attack on a 3-hitter at random. So he can kind of do some work if you're really desperate in faction wars, or maybe the epic Lizardman secret room. But generally speaking, he's pretty useless. Well, we definitely had a dry spell on the epic rates until the very end here, and it didn't really matter that we got the legendary as far as the points. So we're definitely over 3,000 now. But yeah, was it worth it in the end to get the blood gorged? I'm not really sure, to be honest with you. But okay, Pax, come on. But if we hop over to the champion chase, we can just double check on my math. We should be well over 3,000 points, somewhere around 3,200 or so. And so we have acquired the legendary tome. We're going to save this energy for the fusion starting tomorrow because we don't know what the events are. Probably a dungeon tournament, maybe dungeon divers, since we haven't had a dungeon divers event in a few days or so. So that's my guess if I had to guess. But yeah, save all your energy if you can in nodes like this for fusions coming up in the future. Well, all right. So that's going to do it for today's video. That is it for the shard pulls. Ended up taking us 60 ancient shards to get to this point. So not bad. Pretty average return. A little bit lower again on the epic rates, but we kind of bounced it out there in the end. And of course, the legendary is a huge boost to our points. Let me know in the comment section down below if you guys were pulling for this event and if you got anything good or anything better than a blood gorged. As always, if you enjoyed this video, then be sure to hit that like button down below, as well as hit that subscribe button down below as well, because there will be more videos like this one in the future. Thanks for watching and have a good one.